Tell me first of all your name and your date of birth.
Francis Rath, born in 1924, 26th of December.
And born in Baramulla?
In Baramulla.
Tell me what your family were doing in Baramulla.
My father was an engineer. He was a mechanical engineer and he was with the dredging, first dredging. And then he retired from here only as an engineer. And then we got settled. Actually, we had our property in Srinagar. And we were actually settled in Srinagar only. But this place, during the dredging time, father built this house. Because he was fond of shikar and all that, and they used to come and stay here with his friends. There was Mr. Thorpe and some English friends he had. They used to come here for weekends to do some partridge shooting and pheasant shooting. So this was built for that purpose only. But it was only after 47, just before 47 we moved into this place. Because with partition, all that property and all went. We had a lot of land in Srinagar, actually in my grandfather's estate, what was given to him by Maharaja Ranbir Singh. And that went. So our property in Srinagar, father wanted to get rid of it because he thought whether we will have it or not. He sold the house, there was land where the watch factory is, there we had land. All that was sold. Just pennies,
So in 1947, you were one of the leading families in Baramulla?
Yes. We were the only leading family, actually the only Christian family in Baramulla. 100 years we were here. My grandfather was a German. He came from Germany and he was deputed by the East India Company to Maharaja Ranbir Singh as an armourer to make arms for the state. So he had his factory in Srinagar in Hafchanar. So he was there, and these boys came up. But when the father died, then the Maharaja took over these children, and he trained them, sent them for engineering, electricity and mechanical engineering, and they were all employed here. And there was a bond written that they would be, from generation to generation, they'll be state subjects. So they stayed on here. Then my father liked this place, Baramulla, so we came and settled here. And since then after 47, when the disturbances, then we had to run away again. My family was distributed. They were in the convent, then we were all sent to Pakistan with the sisters. Then from there we made a recovery and came back to get this property. But unfortunately what happened that the refugees from this Chenari area, they had come and settled here. And we could not dislodge them. In spite of all our protests that we have suffered so much, we lost our house, we lost everything from this house. But nobody listened. So we just left. Then I was in Srinagar, working in the mission hospital. Then I went for my training to Ludhiana Medical College. Finished off, then came back to hospital. Again, then from in 59, I came to Baramulla to take over this property because with great difficulty managed to get those people out because we had no other property in Kashmir left. It was all sold and disposed of. So this was the only house that was left. So I thought I'll take possession. And I came here. I started my practice. Thank God, everything went nicely. And now I'm here from 59, almost 45 years, looking after these people.
But thinking back to 1947, you would be 22 then?
Yes.
Can you remember how you heard that the Lashkar was approaching Baramulla?
We were all aware of it. Because we had some friends who were in this St. Joseph's College, some army officers' children, and they left college at once and went away. So we asked them, what is the reason? They told me that some disturbance at Kohala with these raiders or army Pakistan people or something was there. So that's the reason they're going away. But little we knew, after 3 days, 4 days, suddenly the lights went off. Mora powerhouse was taken by those people. Then there was no electricity at all. Then 2 days after that, we heard terrible firing all round. Something we had never heard before. Although we used to shoot, my father used to shoot, but there never used to be such a bombardment. Hundreds of shots being fired. They were crossing over from all over the place, coming over in their trucks from this side, and there was a big halagulla. So we just had to leave our home and take shelter. Then Father Shanks was there, and he told us to move to the school. Then afterwards he said, no, it will not be better, so we better move to the convent. So we all moved, and all the families, there were some decent families who were staying here that time. Just few selected good families. Pasrichas was there. This Leela Pasricha's family was there. Then there was this, my uncle was there, the Silvas. Then some all decent officers who were settled here. They thought Baramulla was a very good place to settle. So we all had to run, and we came to the convent. And first of all, we were put in separate rooms. Then when the firing started and everything, they started firing in the compound and all, then everybody was rushed to one ward. So we got into that baby ward. Everybody was in. The nuns were there, we were there, the priests were there, everybody was there.
But did you not think of leaving Baramulla before the Lashkar arrived?
No, we had no idea at all. Nobody wanted to leave. Nobody left. Otherwise, we had a whole family. We could have moved to Srinagar. We never thought this will be such a Holocaust. And once they arrived, it was terrible. Everywhere they were firing, from every corner.
Tell me about Father Shanks. What did Father Shanks look like? What sort of man was he?
Father Shanks was a good man, a nice-looking man. He was a vice principal of the school. Then he was a principal of the college also. And he spent a lot of time here as a principal. And he was staying here, but he was a type of man who was not accommodating, for everybody. So that was the problem. Then when he got in trouble, then he also ran and came to the convent. When he saw those people were just breaking and firing around everywhere, then he also, to save his skin, he also came and joined us. Then he stayed with us during that time. Then there was a correspondent, what was his name?
Sidney Smith?
Sidney Smith was there.
What was he like?
Actually, Sidney Smith was not exactly with us that time. But somewhere he was in Kanaspura when the advance was coming, when the Indian army had already come in, and he was there trying to report. And then these Pathans got hold of him. And with great difficulty, there was one sub-inspector of police. He saw him, these people dragging him around. So he told them that he's a foreigner. Why are you troubling him? Then, no, he is army ka spy and all, all sort of things they would talk. Then anyway, he managed to get him, and he got him in the convent. So he stayed with us.
What sort of man was he?
Very nice man. Very, very soft-spoken, and not only that, but a lot of patience and perseverance he had, He was just waiting quietly like everybody else. Everybody was talking. He was just sitting quietly and listening to what was happening, how things will go. A day came when they came to break the ward to get in. That was the worst part of the picture. But luckily what happened that time, see, God arranges things. What happened, there was a boy who was a student from St. Joseph's College, here school. He was studying here only for a couple of years. He was here, or for a year or half. He was Major Khurfiz. He went and joined the army. He was with that lot. So when he heard this firing in the convent and school and all that, he came running to see what was happening. So he came and rebuked them and stopped them. Otherwise they would have killed us, everybody. They would have got in the ward and everybody would have been shot dead.
This was Surab Hayat Khan? This man? Did you know Muhammad Yusuf Saraf?
Yes, Muhammad Yusuf Saraf, I knew.
He was a student at...
He was a student with me in college here. He was a student with me in college. He went to Pakistan afterwards and retired as a session judge or something there in Azad Kashmir.
He wrote a book and he says that when the Lashkar arrived, most townspeople in Baramulla welcomed them.
Oh, that's true. Very true. That is true. I told you, even Anayatullah's house, the langar was there, and the Peer who was accompanying them, he had his headquarters there only.
So why did local people support the Lashkar?
I don't know what happened, but things are there like that. They thought they were coming to liberate them from the Maharaja's clutches, and they'll be part and parcel of Pakistan. That was the thing. That was what they were hoping for.
But the Lashkar misbehaved with them as well.
With everybody. Even Anayatullah, he was feeding them. There was a cook was there, langar was there, and they were getting food and everything. In the long run, afterwards, they took away all his stuff also. They took all his carpets, all his expensive items and jewelry and everything they took.
Did you see Khurshid Anwar?
Yes, Major Khurshid. I didn't see him, but he was there, and I saw him outside from the window panes. We saw him. He was rebuking them, and I remembered he was a student with us for some time, not a very long time, but I think a year and a half or 2 years hardly.
And did you see the Pir of Manki Sharif?
No, I didn't see him, because he was with Anayatullah, and then afterwards he moved somewhere else. We saw nothing from outside, because once we were in, we had no idea at all what was happening. This house, we had to leave everything intact. I think those days, there were very few homes in Baramulla who were really properly furnished and with the English standard of living, And we had everything in the house. And after 4 days, when the thing got cool, and somebody from us, one of my brothers, he came quietly at night, crossed over from this wall and came to see. There was not a thing in the house. Everything was taken away. But that was not taken away by the Pathans, that was taken away by the local people, Because heavy furniture, who would take? They took away probably the expensive items. They were mostly after this, anything glittering, like brassware, and they were after gold, They thought brassware also was gold. So anything they saw in that capacity, they must have taken all that. And probably carpets and things like that. I don't think so, the crockery and things like that. We had very expensive crockery, a lot of glassware. I don't think so, they must have taken all those things. Or might be the officers who were accompanying them, they might have taken them afterwards, those things. We don't know exactly what happened.
Who were these officers?
Pakistan Army officers were with them. They had a whole lot of them. They were controlling the whole situation.
Did you see them?
Yes, we saw them afterwards. They were going around. They were people who were trying to control them otherwise. But they were in a big dilemma when that man, Shirwani, he fooled them very badly. He kept them pending from one post to the other. Either Saga, don't go this way, there with armies there, here is army. So those days till the army consolidated, until they moved. And then when they came to know that this man was doing this, he had a motorcycle. He's the only man who had a motorcycle that time. He was going around on his motorbike and coming and giving them information. Abhi mat aao. He really put them off very badly. So the result was that when the army came, but these people, they just came to know that he was the man who had fooled them. Probably the army officers must have realized that, and they got him executed.
Did you know Makbul Sharwani?
Yes, very well. Because he used to roam around here in the market. We knew him. He was loafer type of man, but happy-go-lucky.
What did he look like?
He was a young man, very young. He was in 20s.
A politician?
He was not a politician. He was just a national conference worker, but a very strange type of worker, He was the man, when Jinnah came, they came with the shoes, they made a garland of shoes, and he went to put it around his neck. That was the stage. We know that time.
So he must have got into trouble for that.
He didn't get in trouble because the state government was happy with it.
So he was a bit of a reckless guy.
Reckless type of man. Otherwise, who would take such a risk? All the National Conference people were hiding. Baramulla, people had evacuated. All the decent people had left Baramulla. Only these Pandits, poor fellows, were left. And these Hindus. And they were treated very badly by those people.
Killed?
They were killed. Not many of them were killed, but they were tortured. The houses were stolen. Everything was still stolen from the homes. And they were put afterwards when the government realized, the government was there, not there, but there was a DC here who took over all these people and put them in the cinema hall. All these females and all, he put them there for safety. But still, out of that, they used to come and pick them up, the women. They had a very bad time.
So the women were in the cinema hall for safety?
For safety,
Hindu
yeah.
and Sikh women?
Not many Sikhs, because Sikhs had got away. And any Sikhs who was anywhere around, they killed them. They were just looking for Sikhs only. Baal wala kafir dikha humko. Any Sikh, they were killing them. Even in the convent, we had some patients. There were 2 ladies there. And when they got into one ward, and they knifed her, But luckily, after the officer's command, they had to leave everything and go away. And then that woman was brought in, and the sisters nursed her. And she lived. And they took her to Pindi. Then after when things got all right, then few families of Sikh girls, ladies were there. They were brought back to Kashmir.
The patient who is buried in the grounds, Motia Devi Kapoor, what happened to her, do you know?
She was also in the ward. She was killed. That time when I told you, when they came into the ward, and she was one of the ladies who was killed. And they knifed that Sikh girl also, but luckily she survived.
When you got to the mission, to the ward, had all the killings happened by then?
No. It happened afterwards. We were just in time, otherwise we would have all got killed. In this house, we would have all got killed.
Did you see any of the killing at the mission?
Yeah, we saw the nuns when they were shot. We saw them all from the window we were looking. When they came out, actually one nurse was there, Nurse Philomena. She was going from one ward to the other. And as she came out of the ward, nobody knew that these people were already there. And they fired at her. The moment they fired at her, she fell down. And these 2 sisters came running out to see what had happened. In the meantime, that superior was shot. The other was wounded. And Colonel Dykes was in one room. He came out as an army officer. He just came out to see what had happened. So they shot him also. And they went into his room, and Mrs. Dyke was also shot. And then Mrs. Pasricha, they had one room also by the side. And they came out to see, and she was also shot. But luckily she got a bullet in the leg only.
And she was a Britisher?
She was a Britisher. She was a Britisher. I told you we had some selected families here who were just quite different to the whole, this setup of this place. And there were some state government officers who were retired, who wanted to come and settle in a place like Baramulla, because a lot of breeze in the evening, good cold water, and without any noise. So they used to come and settle here. So everybody had to run away. They got away in time, many of them, and many of them were killed.
What did the attackers look like?
These Pathans, something tied around their heads, salwar kameez, and a waistcoat, and guns hanging, ammunition all over the place. The whole body was packed with 303, those things, I don't know how many hundred, everybody was carrying pouches of that medicine, this ammunition, and those 303 rifles, firing anywhere, even at birds, anything went down, dogs, just happy-go-lucky people, trigger happy.
Which community were they from? Which Pathan tribe?
There were so many. The Masoodis were there. There were Afridis were there. This Yusufzais and all type of people were there. But we came to know only afterwards about the tribes, because that police officer, he was a Pathan, and his son was a student with us. Actually, he was a man who used to come and feed us, bring sometimes some bread or kulchas or something for us to in the convent, because nothing else to eat there. So afterwards, when they left, then he only told us the tribes who were there, who came and joined them in this Garbad. They were actually all from the Alaka Gair area, the NWFP, that tribal area. Mostly all from tribal area. There were no proper Pakistanis in that. They were all tribal area people.
And what were things like in the baby ward? Because in that first few hours, there was the injured were there as well?
Injured came, yes, the sisters were injured, they were there. Then those children, those patients who got killed, that one woman who died. And then that one Sikh girl was there who was injured. They were all put in there. Everybody was there. It was like a khichdi. Everybody was packed into that room. And there were just two bathrooms there, just imagine. For so many people. It was a big problem for everybody.
Do you remember the little boys of Colonel and Mrs. Dykes?
Yes, we saw them.
How did they cope with what had happened?
They were in a very bad state, poor children. They were just brought in, and they were crying all the time. They had a terrible time, and there was hardly anything to eat. That was the worst part, was that. Eating was, especially for children, it was impossible for them to go on. We were getting something, whatever was there in the convent we had. Then somebody was getting from outside something, some little tracks of food was coming in. And that also, they were also scared because they were killing them also. Where are you going? Our servants and all, they never showed up their faces. We never saw a single servant who were serving in our homes. It was just odd people who knew us. They only came and brought us food and something to eat. Something, no tea, nothing. There was a lot of wine was there. Church wine, Plenty of it was available. So people who wanted, they used to take that. That was the only source they had.
Sidney Smith, in his news reports, he wrote about a dancing girl called Kaushalya, who was also in the baby ward. She was caught up in the thing and took refuge. Do you remember her?
I don't remember.
Did the Pathans misbehave with the women in any way?
They didn't get in the ward. If they had got in the ward, they would have misbehaved with all the nuns, all the females who were there. They would not have spared anybody. But luckily, I told you that officers' intervention stopped them from breaking into the ward. That is just one God-sent man who came here to save us. Otherwise, there would have been no hope. Nobody would have survived. Even the men, they would have killed.
So how did you get out?
It was afterwards, when they left, when the army came, then only everybody left out.
This is the Pakistan army or the Indian army?
No, Indian army when they landed. Pakistan army had moved with them only, because when the Indian army came, they sent in these fighter bombers. So those were real death for those Pathans. On the road, all those big trucks were there, so they were these being strafed by those planes. And they were, afterwards, when the thing was over, I wanted to go to Srinagar because my father was already there in Srinagar that time. And I wanted to meet him, see, and they were also worried what had happened to us. The whole road was littered with dead bodies,
Did you see them?
Yes, that's what I'm telling you. We saw them. Dogs were dragging them. The kites were, these hawks were after them. And all over the place, right up to Shal Tank. The whole place was littered with dead bodies.
So when you got out of the mission, you headed to Srinagar rather than to Pindi.
No, I didn't go to Pindi. You know what happened that day? I would have also moved with them, to Pindi. I had come to see the house that day because things were normal a little bit at that time. Pathans were running away that time. I came to the house, and in the meantime, we didn't know that these trucks had come. And when I got there, the trucks had already left. So I didn't know where to go. Then I was there alone. In the meantime, army came. So luckily, one local truck from Srinagar, some Sikhs who had run away from here, they heard the army had moved and they also came in to see. Because homes were here, they were all burnt and everything. So they were going back, so I went with them in the same truck and went back to Srinagar. I met my father there and he was very worried. He didn't know all this had happened.
And how were things in Srinagar?
Srinagar was all right. You know what happened? Srinagar, that time before the raiders, because they couldn't get in anywhere near. The nearest was in Shaltank. And to the airport they came very late. It was very late that time when they got there. And the army was already there. So Srinagar was quite nicely controlled because these National Conference people, they were patrolling the place. That's what my father told me. They didn't allow people to go and molest these Hindus or anybody in minorities there, They're giving them protection in everywhere. So that way, Srinagar was saved. But had they if Sherwani had only gotten friendly with them, if Srinagar had gone, then the airport would have gone, the whole city would have gone, they could never have got out. And they could have easily moved out to even Banhal to capture that area. So nothing would come across. But luckily, we were lucky that time. I could say lucky only because we are alive to tell you the story.
There are suggestions that in Baramulla some of the different Pathan tribes argued. They argued about tactics, they argued about delay, they argued about the looting. Did you get any indication that there were differences between different Pathans?
No, it's only afterwards we came to know. I told you that Pathan boy, he only told us all these things. We didn't know anything. Because we were just caught in inside. We knew nothing of what was happening outside. We didn't even know what had happened in the market. How many people were killed, what had happened, we knew nothing. It's only after the Holocaust was over, when the army came in, then only we came to. Then after 4 days I came back again to take over. The refugees were already occupying the house. No indication of getting anything. Nothing was, even the heavy furniture had gone. Nothing.
So, was there a hero in terms of Baramulla? Who would you describe as a...
This Shirwani, he was the hero. It was all due to his intervention, otherwise Kashmir would have had a different picture. You wouldn't see, today you are talking to me, you would be talking in Pakistan to somebody then. That was the picture. Because the Indian army, the Pakistan army was following them, As they were moving, they were coming in. So they would have occupied the whole place.
So that's how it all started?
That's how it started. Because that was the probably plan, that they wanted to do it that way. But it misfired. It misfired in 65 also. With those mujahids they sent. And this time with this militancy, it is worse picture now. We don't know where we stand.
But why in Srinagar did the National Conference have a militia which was willing to fight the Lashkar, but in Baramulla there was no militia?
Nobody. The National Conference here, but they were... Actually, Baramulla has always been a place of Jamatis, what we call. Jinnah's group. They were mostly from that group. Baramulla already had that bad reputation, that they belonged to that part. So naturally they took a good opportunity to join hands with those people. Even after that, when Bakshi Ghulam Ahmad became the Prime Minister, Baramulla was always neglected because he thought we were all traitors, Baramulla people. We were never faithful to the this thing. So we were neglected very badly.
But you came back to Baramulla.
Yes, I had to come back. Then only in 59 I came back, when the house was vacated, to take up possession and repair it. All this has been, every room had a chula. They put mud, put few bricks, and they were cooking food. Every room had a family. All this took lakhs of rupees to renovate. All this was done. The plaster was removed, fresh plaster put, because when we put anything on the old plaster, it used to come out due to the smoke. So this was all done up afterwards.
But looking at what happened in 47, if it hadn't have been for Shivani, if Pakistan had got control of Kashmir, perhaps there'd be no trouble afterwards.
There would have been no trouble afterwards. There's definitely there would have been no trouble, because the apple of contention only is Kashmir. All the trouble is on Kashmir only. So probably things would have been cleared up. They would have been probably having better relations also. Things would have been quite different. And for us, it would not have mattered, We could have got settled here, and then both sides, it would have not mattered. Because I had relations in Pakistan also. Some families were staying there. Because we used to go in winter, we used to spend our winter across to Lahore and Rawalpindi or some places every year. For us, it would never have been a problem, but for the other people, definitely. Especially for the minorities, it would never have been able to come back again. The Sikhs, they had a lot of property here, a lot of land, a lot of estates. They would have lost everything.
What did you think of the Maharaja?
We always thought very good about the Maharaja, because during his time we had a lot of peace. And then where our family was concerned, we were all employed, government employees. And there was always a thing open for us, all the children. From generation to generation, they'll be employed and get jobs here. Because the Maharaja was very pleased with my grandfather. So there was a special...
But he was a playboy, though.
He was a good man, The Maharaja himself was not a bad man. He never wanted all this drama. He thought he would remain as an independent Maharaja, which didn't work. Because Sheikh Abdullah was more crazy for power. So he went and joined hands with India, and then the whole thing started. That Shakargarh, that thing, 9 miles of that, Sir Ratcliffe's, that boundary thing. In that only the whole drama started, no?
So you didn't support Sher-e Kashmir?
No. I still don't support them. Because my father had, such a man he was, in spite of all we suffered, he never went to ask them for anything, I told him, he said, no, I'll never go. He says, I never believe in these people, I'll never go.
Well, thank you very much for your memories. Thank you.
Pakistan Army.
Just to save them.
To protect them.
For their safety.
For their safety's sake only. Because they saw when those nuns and all were killed, so they thought it international bounce was there, So naturally they took everybody. So now we were all staying there, they were all pushed out.
And who was this officer who saved the people in the convent?
I told you that Major Khurshid. Major Khurshid.
इसमें हिंदुस्तान टाइम्स में भी इनका पूरा है.
I've given them, he also gave out. Hindustan Times man.
थोड़ा नाम में उसने गड़बड़ किया है. Otherwise, he has given the book.
He came and took my interview.
Major Khurshid was